Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. As always, mate, I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, the morning of the 21st of January, big 2026. Reacting to a few things, of course, Sterling Disasi is back with the first team. We'll see what's going on there. Apparently, Raheem's still trying to be sorted. Rosenior has come through the door at Chelsea and he sat down with both of them, speaking about how to feel and what's going on and how do we move forward, etc. Also, the big and, most developed transfer story is Jérémie Jacquet of Rennes, potentially coming to Chelsea. Developments there. Apparently, the Chelsea manager, Rosenior, is pushing for this player. Of course, he knows him well from the French league. This would be fomenting the narrative that indeed the head coach at Chelsea does have some sway. Or are they just trying to keep him happy early doors because he's just arrived and then they'll put their own footprint on the squad? He does seem adamant that he will have say in transfers. Of course, he was asked about Mamadou Sarr and stuff. We'll speak a little bit about that as well. Could be recalled. Rosenior spoke about that as well. And maybe we'll speak a little bit about the midfield. Wind down. Elliot Anderson's name is being mentioned yet again by the likes of Ben Jacobs, journalist, sports reporter. So we'll cover all of that, my friends. We'll be citing RMC Sport, French publication with Fabrice Hawkins and, The Independent. So, delighted to have you all here with me. Thank you for supporting the content, for liking and subscribing on YouTube, for following and 5-starring on Spotify. Search Football Therapy Podcast. You guys probably have noticed I've been generating timestamps. It's not immediately after I upload, because it takes a little while. I do it through AI to analyze the transcript and just make it a little bit easier for you guys. Of course, videos have been a little bit longer lately. Some people moan about that. Some people for ages have been asking me to do longer form content, and then you do that, and then people moan that you're doing longer form content and you're not doing shorter form. You can never keep everyone happy, but at least this way, I can do slightly longer. And with the timestamps, if you don't have the time to sit for everything and you just want to, find out which is your favorite part of the content, what you want to learn about, you can utilize the timestamps. So, trying to keep everyone happy. That's my jam. Final bit of housework, mate. Of course, you can follow Football Therapy Clips on TikTok and Instagram for those of you who don't want long form and you just want 30 seconds odd, you can do that. You can check me out on Football Therapy Clips. Right, let's get into it. Ooh la la! Now, I must say, early doors, this article from RMC Sport is going to be translated from French. So it might be very peculiar. I'm just getting that in early. Because sometimes it's like broken English and doesn't directly translate well on the Google Translate. So this is, even though I read a bit of French, I'm absolutely not going to try and decipher that and deliver it to you in some cohesive content. So we'll just read the translated version, and it goes as following. Courted by Chelsea during this winter transfer window, Jérémie Jacquet has agreed to join the London club. As we know, guys, he's agreed personal terms a few days ago. However, Rennes are adamant about letting him leave now, and that he could therefore keep him on loan, according to sources. Yeah, so they're essentially trying to sell him to Chelsea for maybe a fee that suits us more, but they keep him for a 6 months loan because they're having a good season. This is the hottest topic of Rennes' transfer window and one of the most important in the France winter transfer window. As reported by RMC Sport, Chelsea is courting Rennes' young defender Jérémie Jacquet, who's under contract until 2029. However, Rennes is adamant about letting him leave now. I think it's about adamant about not letting him leave now. I think that's being missed here, especially since the Breton club wants to make him the most expensive player in its history. Initially, we offered around 50 million euros, it looks like, and it's expected to land on the table for the Rennes management, who would prefer more than 60 million. Apparently, the guys, they want more than what they got for Jeremy Doku. Which seems kind of crazy, because defenders should be cheaper, but granted, it's a mid-season January transfer. which always costs more. To reach an agreement, the English club wants to buy the 20-year-old and then immediately loan him back to Rennes until the end of the season. How does this help us? We'll read on in just a moment, but just off the bat, guys, surely we're doing this now because we need him now to strengthen our chances of reaching certain targets this campaign, qualifying for the Champions League, going deep into the cups, or as deep as we can, especially with Mamadou Sarr arriving in the summer, Aaron Anselmino returning, it does seem a little bit, what's the point? I did say yesterday a bunch of players could be leaving. It could be up to like 3 starting. It could be up to 4 starting centre-backs. We don't know Benoit Badiashile, but clearly he's down the pecking order. I know we like him as a left footer, but when Levi comes back in, I have a feeling. I mean, would you truly be shocked with Chelsea Football Club if at the end of the summer transfer window, Disasi, Badiashile, Tosin, and even maybe against people a lot of Chelsea fans will, Chalobah are all gone for one reason or another? 4 centre-backs out. So, there is that sort of potential instance. To facilitate a move, Chelsea have no more loan slots available. Of course, we've recalled David Datro Fofana and looking for a permanent transfer. So there's freed up your international loan slot to accommodate Jérémie Jacquet. Of course, the player has agreed to join the Blues, and he's made 16 appearances for Rennes this season. That's not that many, is it? If he's this really like 60 million euro super important player that the gaffer doesn't want to get rid of, then why has he only made 16 appearances in the season? There's 18 teams in Liga. I think so. But still, that makes me think, hold on. So they are 6th place in Liga. Just above Strasbourg, 4 points ahead. Yeah, there's only 18 teams, so slightly less games. But still, man, I'm just looking at his who scored now. Yeah, 16 appearances, and it's just in Ligue 1. Obviously, none of the cups or anything. He's got a pretty good rating. I mean, can I just say, you know what? I'll speak about Micky van der Ven in just a moment. Because a lot of Chelsea fans have been saying, why don't Chelsea, look at Micky van der Ven? And I must say, I kind of feel like it as well. Let's just quickly complete this article. After last weekend's 1-1 draw against Le Havre, Habib Beye put a bit of a pressure on the club's management, suggesting the defender's potential move would jeopardise the club's sporting ambitions. Currently, they're 6th in the league, of course. They're chasing European football. And he says, should they be sold, they'd have to lower their expectations. He said, he's a key player for us, one of the best in the team. And so we have to resist that approach. Maybe he didn't start the season playing and he's sort of found his way into the starting 11 and now he's really important. Yeah. I mean, Micky van der Ven, he's 24, so he's under 25. Big tick. He turns 25 at the end of the season. He's an absolute dominant force. If you could pick any player from that Tottenham team, if someone said to you, you could just have the pick of your bunch, pick anyone, Some might say Solanke, get him back. Some might say Kulusevski. I'm trying to think. I'm struggling now. But I think everyone would just be like, Van der Ven, immediately. Maybe Romero, because he feels quite Chelsea, because he's like a bit of a villain. But I think Van der Ven, just the most high-performing centre-back that can score goals. Liverpool won him as well. It cost a lot of money, and I think the problem with Micky van der Ven, and what's frustrating Chelsea fans, is he's a high-profile target, and he will know Liverpool will immediately offer him a salary that Chelsea simply won't. Perhaps he won't get Mark Guehi at Man City numbers, which kind of made me feel a little bit better about the situation, because I'm not sure I want Chelsea to just sign random plug-and-play players like we used to in such a way and give them 300k a week. It's easier when you're a settled Man City and you've got Guardiola at the helm, who, by the way, might be cooked. Perfect opportunity to plug the second channel, Football Yannick, where I reacted to their historic loss to Bodo last night in the Champions League, which was very funny. Rodri got a red 2 yellow cards in 58 seconds. That's on the second channel, Football Yannick, which is a link at the top of the description somewhere. Yeah, man, I would like Micky van der Ven. I could I think it'd be amazing. It would be really funny taking him off Spurs. But I think, yeah, he'd probably just go for the bag at Liverpool, and that's probably what's going to happen. Right, let's move on and speak about the exiled chaps. Yes. So this is going to be on The Independent, as you can see here. Liam Rosenior gives Raheem Sterling and Axel Disasi update after Chelsea exile. Ooh, dramatique. Let's see what's being said, shall we? Chelsea manager Liam Rosenior has revealed the club are in conversations with Raheem Sterling about his future, but fellow exiled teammate Axel Disasi has returned to first team training. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this once we've read the article. Short article, don't worry. Sterling and Disasi, both senior players on high salaries. Yeah, I forget Disasi's and probably like, you know, I mean, but Ben, he can't be on that much higher a salary than Badiashile. Maybe a little bit higher because he's a more senior player. But he's not like a friggin', you know. He's not on, so Wesley's probably on 200. Reece James is on 250, but we all are happy with James on 250. And obviously Sterling's on silly money. They're both on high salaries. They've both been banished from the first team at the start of the season, with previous boss Enzo Maresca deeming them +2 requirements. Sterling, who's £325,000 a week. I mean, that's going from 300 to 325. I think Sterling's on 300. I think Lukaku was on 325. But his deal expires next summer, so 18 months. Has been linked with moves to Fulham and West Ham, but under 2 weeks until the January window closes, the 31-year-old is yet to secure a move elsewhere. One moment? Okay, yet Rosenior ahead of the first Champions League game in charge of Chelsea tomorrow night against Paphos, which is tonight, and I will react after that game, acknowledged that he is hopeful of a resolution for Sterling, whatever that may be in the next few days. We're in conversations with Raheem at the moment about different things going on in his career. Hopefully that will be clearer in the next few days. So on Raheem, the way he was, bearing in mind, Disasi's been playing for the under-21s, he's been captaining them. He's not as problematic as Sterling in terms of his contract situation. He's not quite top tier bomb squad out of the two. He's like the sort of secondary tier. He's been brought back in, and from what, you know, Liam said about both, he sounded pretty positive about Disasi. And with those quotes there for Raheem Sterling, it's a little bit like we're talking, have some positive conversations about where his career is. Not that, it was very methodically worded by the Chelsea manager in that saying, look, I'm not looking to bring him back in, but we're trying to help him out and find a resolution with him. I'm having these human conversations with him and, you know, trying to get him back on track. Essentially, reading between the lines, away from Chelsea. Whereas Axel Disasi is a little bit more like, maybe you can play a little bit to the summer, we'll see. He's not match fit, etc. However, the centre-back Disasi returned to training on Tuesday, yesterday, and Rosenior is focused on building up the Frenchman's match fitness. My decision on Axel, I had a really good meeting with him a couple of days ago. I said to the players when I came in that it's a clean slate for everybody, except Raheem Sterling on 300k a week. So it was only right for me to chat with him. He's behind in terms of his fitness, his match fitness as well, and we'll work with him. Yeah, only because he's been cast out, bro. That is absolutely not on him. Look, I'm not as big as fan as a player, but, like, you know, we've got to respect everyone as professional human beings. Going into the matchday 7, Chelsea are 13th in the Champions League group phase table. 2 points off the top 8. Well, we beat Paphos, we go level with Man City, which is great fun. Which means that we could be getting the playoff round. If we win both games, we're in, I think. Your dream as a player, as a manager, is to be at the top of the game. Speaking about managing in the Champions League. Yada, yada, yada. Let's talk about Disasi. A big talking point here, okay, is I don't think it's, no one will mind too much about recalling Datro Fofana to sell him to free up a loan spot. Fine. No one's going to be upset about that at all, yeah? Simply just won't even register for some people. To accommodate the signing of Jérémie Jacquet and to loan him back to Rennes until the summer so he arrives then, that is clearly, in my view, Chelsea not trying to necessarily plug a disastrous hole mid-season, but doing all they can to get a player that Liam Rosenior wants. That's what there's been a lot of talk about, that he knows a lot about him. And he's a player that he wants. I'm sure he'd probably prefer him now. But you have to understand that Mamadou Sarr, who's just won AFCON, who's really good in the final, who is a highly rated player at Chelsea, he is coming back. We've had him in a Chelsea shirt. He's coming back in the summer. Now, Rosenior was asked about this, and rightly so. He did the right default thing that all managers should do. I don't talk about other players, other clubs' players. I find it disrespectful. And he has to be extra delicate, extra careful when speaking about his former club, Strasbourg, because if he comes to Chelsea and starts talking about bringing their players ahead of time, he is going to, need, protection. Do you know what I mean? That is, ultimate insult to injury. He's allowed to talk about Omega as a player and Mamadou Sarr as a player, both, of course, at Strasbourg that he's coached, because they are officially Chelsea players. The Strasbourg fans, as a club, they know they're coming to Stamford Bridge in the summer. So he's allowed to talk about them in the future context. When they come to Chelsea, they're great players, but I hope they do well at Strasbourg. He can't be like, yeah, just bring them over now, sod it. Let's completely, screw their season up. I do think Gary O'Neill had a good start at Strasbourg. They do still have good players there. There's even headlines suggesting he might mend the rifts between him and the club and Paez and get him playing. And hopefully Strasbourg they still have a good season. I'd love for them to win the Conference League. It'll be a nice story for them getting into Europa, and then obviously there'll be conflict because we'll probably finish in a Europa League spot. Actually, that is a silly. I want to speak about that quickly because there's all these concerns like Strasbourg. If they ever finish in a competition the same as Chelsea, they'll have to forfeit it because Chelsea are king. So they've got a hard ceiling. I was hearing that on maybe the Guardian Football Weekly podcast, which I thought was really poorly informed because they should remember that there is this soft agreement in place with multi-club ownership that you can do this temporary ownership freeze that allows two clubs to play in the competition. Of course, it screwed up Palace last summer, and they ended up getting demoted into the Conference League because of the multi-club ownership. But if you remember, guys, that Marinakis, Forest owner, obviously owns Olympiacos as well. He put this thing in place, a temporary freeze, that if they're both playing the competition, they're allowed to play in the same competition. It's happened before. I think the RB, Red Bull have done it before. There is something in place that you can do, and Chelsea will have that in place. So should both teams qualify for the same competition, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I remember this from 6 to 12 months ago. There is a temporary asset freezing where you technically don't own them for extended period of time, and therefore there's no conflict, and you're allowed to both play in the competitions. It sounds like absolute. I mean, it's a loophole, obviously, but we are Loophole FC, and there is something in place there. I will say, there's so many, in the summer, come pre-season for next campaign. But it just sucks hearing this because we're always next season, aren't we? And Arsenal is next season FC. We'll try and win the title next season. For us, it's next season FC. I will be a good team next season, and all the kids will be a bit older, and a few loanees will be back. Whether it's friggin' Esteva arriving and Andre Santos coming back from loan, or next season it's Levi Colwill being back and Firmino and Mamadou Sarr being back from loan. Do you know what I mean? And Omega arriving and Pender's arriving. So it's and Giovanni Kenda arriving. It's always next season. Eventually, we'll get to the season where 20, 30 of these kids have arrived that are all prodigious superstars, and we have to be a good team, right? And Caicedo and Reece James are in their peak. And does it ever happen, or is it just that ongoing, Monty Python Holy Grail scene where Lancelot's running towards the castle with the drum roll and he never gets there? One for the teenagers. Let's move on. I mean, I can imagine a lot of Chelsea fans. Initially, the reaction would be, if we signed Jérémie Jacquet, say for 50 million euros, so was that 44 million pounds or something, loan him back to Rennes, You will learn after the signing. There'll be a few like ex-French football experts on podcasts saying, yeah, he's very good. Chelsea have got a very good player here. And you go, all right, fair enough. And we'll be angry at first that he's loaned back. But, 6 weeks in, he'll have a good game in Liga. And everyone will be like, oh, he's had a good game. He'll arrive eventually. But it's about the now. Now, Ben Jacobs spoke about, because Buonanotte is gone, Chelsea could look to accelerate an attacking midfielder signing in the winter-January transfer window. There's like 10 odd days left. There's not that long. So if they want to get cooking, they got to get a wiggle on now. I will, of course, follow and bring all the latest news stories to... Learn English first. Bring all the latest news stories here to you guys. Whether you're watching on YouTube, thank you for liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, following on Spotify. Of course, you can watch the video there, Football Therapy Podcast. Thank you for following and 5-starring. Also... yeah, you can check me out on all podcast platforms on Football Therapy Podcast, but do consider following Football Therapy Clips on TikTok and Instagram. Ooh, and other than that, I'll see you after the Paphos game for hopefully good vibes. Alright, mate, see you in a bit. Peace.